Hello and welcome to everyone who is here. Thank you for showing up early. We will be getting started in the next 30 to 45 seconds. We're waiting for a few more people to filter in here. But again, thank you for taking some time out of your day, and we'll get started shortly here. And Ilya, I actually have a joke for you.
I'm dying to hear it.
Yeah, you want to hear a joke about a skunk?
Yes, please.
Never mind, it really stinks.
That's a good one.
I like those little dad jokes. They're good.
Indeed.
All right. So let's kick this thing off. We still got a couple people filtered in, but while some people are punctual, we need to be punctual with them. So welcome everybody to our webinar on the top 5 advanced manufacturing features that you all need. And thank you again for taking your time out of your day. We hope you'll find some insights throughout this presentation. Next slide, please. Just a little bit about what we'll be covering today. First, we will give you an intro into who we are and some fun facts about ERPs in general. And then after that, we'll go into the 5 features that we feel are necessary for your business to operate at its best. We'll be putting our focus on manufacturing and inventory management, as they often don't get the spotlight that they need. And from our experience, NetSuite has excelled in these areas, and we will be using NetSuite for the basis of our presentation. Before we kick things off, I would like to launch a poll just to see what ERPs are you guys currently using. We listed some of the top ones there. If those aren't the ones you're using right now, click other, but we would love to see what you guys are currently using. And we got our results coming in here. Looks like we have a split between NetSuite, Sage, and other as of right now. Interesting. Oh, and other just jumped up. And it looks like we need to get a few more bullet points here to add some other ERPs in. Okay, gonna close this up. Looks like NetSuite is the leader, and then we have other, and then Sage. Thank you guys very much for your participation there and your answers. So jumping into who we are. My name is Nick, and I am the sales manager here at AlphaBOLD. I'll be running the backend, so if you have any questions, please shoot them my way. Just use that little questions box, and I'll do my best to get them answered for you during the presentation. If not, I'll follow up with you afterwards to get those for you. And then we also have our NetSuite practice manager, Ilya, with us today. He is a certified NetSuite consultant and has 10 years of experience, and will be taking us through the meat of the presentation. Next slide, please. A little bit about who we are as AlphaBOLD. We are a consulting firm, based out of Carlsbad, California, and we have a little over 70 bold enthusiasts on our team, and we are continuing to grow. We have 2 major practices, one being NetSuite and then the other being Microsoft, and it really gives us the ability to be a full solution provider to our partners, as well as have a good grasp on what works best for different companies, because no company is the same. Next slide, please. Some fun facts. Manufacturing is the largest consumer of ERPs by far. And it makes sense. Manufacturing is complicated, and a robust system is needed to make your business run properly. And as shown here, ERPs standardize backend operations by 70% while reducing operational costs by 11%. So ERPs are very important. Next slide, please. On this slide, you'll see the results of what companies who have an ERP are reporting as their top benefits. The top benefits, as you can see, are all about making better decisions and by having accurate data and inventory on hand, which in turn improves productivity across your business. And as you'll see, we'll cover it in this webinar. NetSuite does a great job of doing these or realizing these benefits. Next slide, please. All right, so For those of you who may not already have an ERP or not happy with whatever system you are using, if you're a small business, 67% of you are taking advantage of consultants to help you with your choice and implementation of ERPs. And that's where we come in as AlphaBOLD. And in line with NetSuite, most are choosing ERPs on the cloud rather than on-prem, which will save you money. Then at the bottom here, you will see the 3 top reasons companies haven't gone to an ERP yet. One is lack of information, and this rings true. If this rings true for you, give us a ring. We'd love to talk about it and kind of help you make that more informed choice. The other 2 have to do with data. This is a perception that kind of cloud services aren't secure and you might lose your data. Well, as you saw in the previous slide, these ERPs actually have better access to your data, or you have better access to your data, and it's more secure. And it's more secure because that's their business, and their business revolves around it, as well as their name revolves around it. It's very similar to why people put their money in banks rather than in their sock drawer. We know the banks are secure because of that. It's their specialty. So same can be said for ERPs such as NetSuite and others. I think that pretty much finishes up my side. I'll stop jaw wagging over here. I'll pass it over to you, Ilya. But please remember, if you do have questions, enter them in the questions box, and I'll be getting to them throughout the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick, so much. All right, so let's get us started here with the presentation. So before we begin, let us ask ourselves why it is important to have a platform or a business software that brings all functionality that an organization would typically need into one collection of functional modules. So I've listed 3 reasons here. Let's delve into the first one, and that's disparate systems cost money. Besides the obvious, and that is the cost of connecting and maintaining 2 different systems, which you would agree can be very high, we also need to consider employee productivity and how difficult, time-consuming, and confusing it is to work in many systems each day. Also note that purchasing a suite of apps, of applications, is always less costly than buying individual packages. All right. So the second reason is visibility is power. In the suite, such as NetSuite, all modules are connected through a common reporting layer. You no longer need to live in the land of perpetual fog, as all of the information is within reach and is immediately synced as it's stored in one common database. And the third reason relates to adoption. In the suite, graphic user interface, or what we call GUI, is identical or very similar between various modules or applications. These modules are designed to work with each other in a single system. Therefore, the user adoption for new functionality is then easier, and a learning curve is not as steep because the users become familiar with common elements across the suite and over time. All right. So the first topic here is production planning, and more specifically MRP. So I want to talk a little bit about the benefits of good MRP functionality. So it provides production planners, MRP provides production planners with efficient and streamlined processes and reporting so that they can get the visibility that they need for just-in-time production planning and supply chain management. So this slide here that you're seeing shows the steps of the planning and production scheduling process in NetSuite. I will quickly walk you through the planning process and explain each step. So the first stage, so the first column there that you see defines the replenishment, is where you define a replenishment method on your products, on your SKUs, essentially NetSuite items. So today's focus will mainly be on the MRP replenishment method, which I highlighted on the slide. The second step is defining the demand source. What is responsible for for demand in your system. Okay. There are 4 forecasting methods that you can use in a system to create demand plans. And if you either do not have enough history in the system, or neither of the forecasting methods will work for you, you can import your demand plans via, let's say, CSV import tool in Netsuite. And now the third part, or the third column of this slide, is the planning stage. So you would establish planning parameters on your SKUs, and these planning parameters are lead time, safety stock, lot sizing methods, batching essentially, consumption in days, time fences, reschedule window capability as well, right? And then you start with the actual MRP processes, which is that fourth column, where you would refresh the repository, and then you will launch supply plan definitions, which we'll cover today during our demo. So I'll move to the next slide. This is the MRP process that I was touching on the earlier slide. The first point is, or the first section there relates to demand plan. So orders coming into NetSuite are considered as proposed demand, as explained in the previous slide. The demand, another demand source that can be used is item demand plan as well. Then as a second step, you would define supply plan definitions. And the supply plan definitions leverage concepts such as item groups, item categories, scope, planning horizon, and we'll discuss that during the demo as well and on my next slide. The third step is the refresh of the planning repository. Okay? And then the fourth step is adjustments to the supply plan based on the changes that happen in the ERP system. And then the final step, the fourth step, is really generating planned orders, the orders that the system suggests we create on the Workbench screen. All right, so the next slide is our Workbench screen. So, so this is the MRP Workbench that we'll be looking at during today's demo. And this is essentially what the supply planner and also the production manager will be consulting on an everyday basis. All right. So let's now proceed with the demo. So I'm just gonna click on recording here, and let's run through this quickly. So the first thing, so I'm gonna rewind here a bit and pause. The first thing that we wanna create in the system is the item categories or planning item categories. And these are just simple lists and simple records. So the next record that we generate, or next object, is planning item group. And here I'm noting what these are. So there's a planning item group called finished good. And notice on the planning item group page, we can define which categories of items, and these can be, as mentioned here, finished good, or it can be different types of components that you would use in your production, right? And you would group them into a single item grouping, and you would add them to this planning items tab. So you would select, essentially, you can also select items, individual SKUs, or you can select these categories as mentioned before. So it's a very simple record to configure. The next step is, as mentioned in before slides, is defining the supply plan definition. Essentially, this is your supply plan, and you can have multiple supply plan definitions. I'm going to pause this one for a second because I want to walk you through this page. Here, you would define horizon, planning horizon on a supply plan definition. And you would also define which planning item groups that you've defined in a previous step or created in a previous step are to be used for supply planning. So in my case here, in my example, I'm using all of them, all of the planning item groups. So the next step is to define the scope. These are the planning item groups we discussed. So here we would define a scope for our supply plan definition. And essentially here we enter the warehouses that we need and we decide what is the source for our demand, whether it's sales orders or demand plans that we can create in the system through historic forecasts. The third step, or the next step, is to refresh the planning repository. Every day something happens in a system, so we need to make sure that the forecasting tool is including or considering those transactions. So we can run this on all of the supply plan definitions or only on a specific one. And then as we refresh the workbench, we get the planning workbench screen that we can access. And then from there, we can start creating planned orders. We can work on filtering different categories, et cetera, et cetera. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the finished good category that we've created. And that can be used for filtering. So now I can see my finished goods that I've set up. So my AB assembly item, I can see the on-hand inventory for that item, on-order inventory, and the late demand. I also can track the supply and demand for that SKU. And all of that is available on one screen, one easy to follow MRP screen. I can see now the components of my assembly item because I can expand that information directly on the screen. And there's a new feature here that kind of shows that information and shows the planning, the forecast for the next, I don't know how many weeks that are specified in our horizon, planning horizon. So I can see my projected available balance, adjusted available balance, and I can see the orders that were generated by the system or by the users. So that's the assembly item. Now we'll focus my attention on the demand. So I want to see what generates demand for my assembly item. And those are sales orders or item demand plan. And all of this is configured on the definition that we looked at together. So I can click on the individual, using the pegging tool, I can click on the individual orders and I can see how these orders relate to other transactions in a system. So in this case, the supply is the planned work order that is producing our product that we can then ship to the customer. So you can see all of that information on these pegging interfaces. And I can expand the information to understand how the supply is sourced for our planned work order. On the supply side, I see those work orders that we were talking about. And then if I click on the peg icon, I can see all of the transactions that relate to that work order. So now I will look at the component filtering. So if I need to see individual components, and imagine using this, you don't have to use this, these categories that I've set up. You know, you can, let's say if you're in food and manufacturing, You can use bottles, lids, packaging as planning item categories, and then you can filter by those product categories that you've set up. So in this case, the supply for my components are POs, and the demand are the planned work orders. Now, planned work orders are transactions that are created by the system, and the work orders are transactions that are created by the users. Now, we can also track exceptions. So if there's certain decisions that we need to make relative to late supply or late demand, we can make those decisions right there, and the system keeps track of those. But the next step is to create a planned purchase order, and that can be done by releasing it essentially. Once the planned purchase order is released, see here you can see what that looks like. There's a start date, the end date to the planned purchase order, and the quantity and the location. Then once it's released, it will appear on a standard order item screen that Netsuite uses for procurement. And then you can consolidate this on a single PO and send to your supplier. The same functionality works on a different screen, mass work order screen, where you can consolidate planned work orders. So I think this is all I wanted to show you regarding this demo. So let's move on. Maybe I should stop here for any questions. Any questions, Nick?
Just had yeah, we had one question come in, was can planned orders be imported?
As far as I know, not at this moment, but I think the capability is on the roadmap. And I think it may be available this year.
Okay, got it. And that was it for this one.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. All right. Almost every manufacturer has a need for lot number and serialized inventory tracking. These capabilities are not always available in basic accounting systems. Thus, a modern ERP must have handling for serialized and law tracking. Definitely, this is a must. This is especially important when it comes to food industry and production of perishable product, and also in the electronics or medical industries, where manufacturers need a quick way to trace transactions linked to a specific serial number. Well, you'll say, that's great, but what about reporting and traceability in NetSuite? Well, definitely this is available, and NetSuite provides a solid traceability reporting with the bundle installation that would allow you to trace all transactions related to your lot or serial number. So I'll move to the next slide. This is an example of the traceability report when you run it. It creates all the inbound and outbound transactions or the production transactions, and then you can export them into Excel or email them to specific users. All right, so moving on to the next topic, NetSuite WMS. Nick, do we have a poll?
Yeah, so before we jump into this section, just want to get your guys' feedback here. Gonna launch a quick poll, really simple. Are you using a WMS? Yes or no? Probably should have thrown in a trick question in here just to make sure people are still awake, still with us. Right, so getting the votes in, and as of right now, it looks like we have about 65% saying no and 33% saying yes. Don't trust my math on that one, doesn't add up. We are going to close it in 2 seconds here. but it looks like the majority of people are not currently using a WMS. Thank you for your participation. We got one more for you for this section. And bam, do you use a mobile device and barcode scanning to manage your inventory operations? And I know from back when I was working in manufacturing, we did not, and it was very laborious. And it looks like a lot of people are in the same boat. It looks like we have about 73% saying no, they are not using any kind of mobile device or scanning device. And we got a quarter of the people saying yes. We'll close this up in 2 more seconds. We do appreciate your feedback. It helps us kind of help make these webinars more relevant for you guys. So thank you. Closing this. And have to go, Ilya.
Thank you so much. So the first question is, what is WMS? So WMS, or Warehouse Management System, extends the capabilities of your ERP by allowing your users to manage their inventory and their inventory processes using the mobile device for scanning. It helps improve inventory accuracy and efficiency, and it saves time, ultimately. What's important is that NetSuite WMS is on the same platform. There are no integrations required. There aren't too many systems that have an embedded WMS, just FYI. So the target audience or the target companies, who are the target companies for WMS? Which companies may need this functionality? So I would say product-based companies who have inventory storage needs. These are usually wholesale distribution companies, manufacturing and retail businesses. These are the companies that desire to move from paper process to mobile digital solutions. These are the companies that are concerned with inventory accuracy, ability to fulfill orders faster, and inventory traceability, ultimately. These companies also may want to utilize barcode scanning, RF mobile devices, and lastly, track lot and serialized products very easily. So the features that WMS provides are guided inventory receipt and put away, intelligent pick and pack processes, cycle counting, integration with shipping systems. What are the key benefits of owning a WMS in NetSuite? It increases labor productivity, it improves order fill rates, reduces handling times, improves operational efficiency by leveraging a mobile app, and it provides real-time traceability of inventory movement and transactions. All right, next slide. This table on the slide defines the current capabilities of NetSuite WMS, and it also shows which features are not available and are on the roadmap. I will take a little break here to let you review the table in detail. We will then proceed with the demo video. Nick, are there any questions in the chat window, perhaps?
We did have one come in here. It says, can we use NetSuite in our warehouse without the WMS interface? Or what are our options?
Yes, you can. You can attach a barcode reader to your mobile interface. An example of the mobile interface is your iPad. The interface will not be as user-friendly as a WMS interface. Also, some functionalities such as wave picking will not be available, but you can definitely process your order via a barcode reader in a warehouse using an iPad.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, so let's get started with the demo. So in this demo, I will show you 3 processes in the WMS emulator window. We'll cover purchase receipt first, then we'll process a bin transfer, and lastly, we'll complete a wave pick. So it's a short demo, but it will kind of show you, it will get you that that look and feel of the WMS in NetSuite. So first thing I do is I click on purchase orders and I enter a PO that I'm trying to receive, or I scan it with a barcode reader. So that's my PO. And then the next step is to show, the next step will show all the items that I need to receive. I would scan the quantity or enter the SKU, and the quantity will be populated automatically. And the next thing I will do is I will scan a bin to which I want to receive my product. So then I can proceed. The next step is to do the bin transfer. So I'm going to click on bin transfer box. I will look for my SKU. There's my SKU. So I'm going to click on this, and what I can do is I can show all the bins and the inventory in all the bins right there on my WMS interface. And let's say I want to transfer one unit from one bin to another. I would enter the quantity, and I would enter the destination bin, and the bin transfer would be done. I can always go back to the main menu, and now we'll process the wave through this interface. I'm going to pick my wave record, which is 169, which will have various pick tasks. So these are multiple orders that will be processed on one screen through one wave. So first I'm going to choose my my item and my bin. I'll scan my item, enter the quantity, and I'm going to scan the lot. And that will complete my pick task for that wave. And then I can continue and complete all other pick tasks that are related to that wave. So I'm going to choose my item to pick based on the recommended bin, enter the quantity, and select my lot. You have to be careful there.
Yeah, this makes it a lot easier, a lot less manual work, and then it also just makes sure you're not doing things incorrectly because you get warning signs like that.
Exactly. All right, so I'll then end this demo and I'll proceed to the next slide. Any questions from the chat?
Let me check. Nothing came through for that one.
Okay. As mentioned earlier, disparate systems are costly. Wouldn't it be nice if we can incorporate quality and inspection flow to our production and supply chain directly in NetSuite? I would say yes. Quality management is a key component of any manufacturing process. Having this functionality directly in ERP is a great advantage. So let's look at the features of the QMS in NetSuite. So NetSuite QMS formalizes quality policies within NetSuite, initiates quality activities from business transactions monitored by the system automatically. It enables paperless quality data collection, and it aligns quality non-conformance with business processes. The key benefits are process consistency, regulatory validation compliance, easy mobile access, and user-friendly UI, and the fact that it's highly configurable. We call that codeless customization. All right, so I'm going to spend some time on the process that will help you understand the subsequent demo. So NetSuite's QMS is typically configured in the NetSuite's ERP interface. And the configuration starts with the quality inspection records. That's where you define all the fields that need to be inspected, or you define the process. That process is then turned, or those records are then turned into something called quality specification. And on a quality specification, you kind of decide what's a fail, what's a pass. You put your attributes and standards in that record of that transaction. On the SKU or product, you define something we call quality context. And you'll understand it a little bit better later during the demo. So the quality context is where you define which SKUs are going to be inspected and what steps are to be used for inspection. And then in the middle of the screen, you see transactions that are sort of triggers for inspection. So here we have item receipt or purchase receipt that is a trigger for inspection, or a build transaction, or work order completion if you use routing and WIP. So the system decides based on quality context whether this inspection is required or not in the next step. If the inspection is not required, the process ends. If the inspection is required, that inspection record is created and added to the inspection queue, and a specific person in the organization is being assigned to that inspection record. Then that queue appears in quality tablet interface, and each user will see probably a different inspection queue based on the assignments. Once the inspection is completed on a quality tablet interface, the inspection can either pass or fail. If the inspection fails, the item can be quarantined or returned to a vendor. Other flows are also possible depending on your needs. So hopefully this process was clear enough. I will now start the demo. So this is my quality inspection record that I've created. Notice this record has multiple tabs, has data fields, inspection standards, pass-fail criteria, etc. So I'll talk a little bit more about this during the demo. So these are the data fields. So in this scenario, I am weighing a container, and I'm verifying a vendor label once the container is being received in our docking station or in our warehouse. Here are the inspection standards. This is where we decide what are our minimums, and this is where we define the pass or fail criteria. So in this case, container weight needs to be no less than 250 pounds. That's your minimum package weight. So the next record that was also shown in the diagram is called quality specification record. So the inspection record is tied to quality specification record. We have our conformance rules set up. So this is our inspection record. And we have our conformance rules. So where we define our parameters for inspection. And this is the context. So every item that is being attached to this quality specification will appear in this context window. The next step is to define the quality context on the SKU. So if I go to the quality tab, this is where we define that quality context that you saw in the earlier diagram. So if I open it up, I can see what's going on here. So I have my item, I have my location, I have my transaction type that this quality context relates to. So that's my trigger, receipt. And then I have the specification, that's the record that was created. And then we have an action that the system will perform, and that's the return to vendor. So inspection functionality or quality management functionality will generate a vendor return authorization if the inspection fails. So this is our purchase order. We're going to click on receive. This is our item that's covered in the quality specification. So I'm going to click on receive. I'm going to save this transaction. So as soon as I save the transaction, if there's quality context, the system will generate an inspection record and add it to an inspection queue. So if I go to my mobile interface, now I will see that inspection record. So I see it at the top. So I need to inspect the container and its weight. So I'm going to click on this record. I'll kind of expand everything so you can see it. So I have all the attributes there on the inspection record. I have the container weight. I can click on a help sign, which are the instructions for the warehouse clerk. So yeah, I need to know what to do. Right. So I'm gonna enter the container weight, and then I'm gonna check that I've inspected the vendor label. And I can add pictures in here. I can do a lot of other things, right? So as soon as I finish the inspection, I can see that based on my configuration, this inspection failed. Now I can see that the inspection record is no longer in a queue. I'll refresh just to make sure. And I can now refresh the screen as well, and I'll see a new vendor return authorization in this list. There it is, it was created. And this vendor return authorization now is pending approval. Okay, so I'll stop the demo here. Are there any questions before I proceed to the next section?
A question came in, said you did not talk about sample testing within the QMS flow. Is that an available feature?
Yes, absolutely. You can use sample testing as part of the general QMS flow. Absolutely. Okay. And you can define how many samples of each batch are to be tested and when.
And then a question came in, said, can you adjust the columns in the mobile screen and expose custom fields?
Absolutely. That's fairly simple to do.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, before you even jump into this, I have another poll for everybody.
All right. That's my poll.
I hope I have another poll. Yep, I got another poll. Okay, so we are going to launch a reporting poll, and just basically, I mean, are you guys happy with your reporting right now? Reporting is huge. It is something that if you are not doing, you need to do. It's the only way to gain real insights into your business and make actual, informed decisions to get your business to be successful. Let's see. Looks like we do have some votes in. 67% of the people are saying yes, while 33% are saying no. I'm glad you guys are happy with your reporting. That's good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna wait a couple more seconds here to wrap this up and let people get their answers in. But it does look like we're sticking at that rough 70-30%. I'll close this up and I'll let you get back to it. Thank you guys for your answers.
Good. Thank you so much, Nick. So I imagine some of you do have pains with reporting, and some of you probably do some of the data massage in Excel. I feel, based on my experience with NetSuite, that NetSuite does an amazing job by putting all of the different modules, different functionality in one place. And this is provided through various interactive reporting tools that NetSuite has. I listed some of these on the slide. Saved searches are one of them. NetSuite reports are one of them. And the latest one is Suite Analytics workbooks. And I'll try to focus most of my attention today on Suite Analytics workbooks, which is essentially a new BI tool in NetSuite with a highly interactive and powerful capabilities. So I'm not going to demo anything. I'm just going to show you some interfaces here. One important workbook that we use often is the Warehouse Inventory Inbound Workbook. So what I'm showing here is just a basic table. And then if I go to the next slide, you can see that we can create very interesting pivots from that table. So what you used to do in Excel, now you can do directly in NetSuite using NetSuite's pivot capabilities. That's part of the workbook's functionality. The next slide shows to you charts that you can create. So you can create various charts. And then lastly, you can expose these charts on your dashboards very easily using the analytics feature or analytics portlet. And then lastly, I want to show you some of our designs and some of our dashboards that we built. We integrated these with NetSuite workbooks using our own Power BI to NetSuite connector. On this slide, we show WMS KPIs that combine external WMS and NetSuite data. If you're interested in something like this, you can connect with us after the webinar. And then I have one more slide here related to the same dashboard. So this one shows our Power BI report where we list order lines, order picks, boxes, ship confirmations. So I wanted to show you that as well. So I think I can end it here. Are there any questions from the panel?
No questions, but one thing just adding on top of that, the Power BI reports, they're great for pulling stuff from NetSuite, but they're great at pulling data from anywhere really, and then combining it into dashboards. If you aren't using Power BI dashboards, we can definitely show you and give you an idea of how easy and simple it makes making decisions based on your data. But no questions outside of that. It seems we're good to go.
All right.
Next slide. All right. Oh, so we're at that stage. Let's meet.
Yeah.
Talk to us. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the presentation. Hopefully you found it informative. If you guys are looking to take on some of these advanced features, or you feel like you're not doing them as best as you can, we would love to just talk with you and maybe take a look at how you guys are currently operating and where we can see some improvements, and then work with you to develop a wish list to make sure your ERP is working the best that it can. And basically, I mean, outside of that, we can hopefully give you some percentages, hopefully 30% gains in your production efficiencies. But basically what we want to do is make sure you guys are happy with your current situation and your processes, and we would love to help you get there. On the next slide, you'll see our contact information. So if you want to take that down, go for it and give us a shout. Otherwise, we will follow up with you afterwards with the recording. We'll send you the PowerPoint, and we can give you any other information that you may need. So don't be shy. Feel free to reach out. Otherwise, thank you guys very much for your participation and being here today. And we look forward to speaking with you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.